Philippe Coutinho, Kaká, Fernando Torres, Antoine Griezmann. All these players have something in common, and that is that they transferred to a club in which they absolutely failed. We have seen a rise in transfer prices over the past few years. That is, until COVID happened and everything slowed down. Nowadays, clubs have to be more careful about where they spend their money. Luckily, I've been reading Soccernomics, and I'm about to disclose to all the football clubs out there why their transfers fail. So the first way mentioned in the book is when they appoint a new manager. The main premise of this argument is that when a team appoints a new manager, he wants to put his mark on the team. So what normally happens is that he sells a bunch of players at a discount because he doesn't want them, because they're not in his plans, and then he buys a ton of players so he has his new team. Now, I'm not saying that these signings are going to be a failure. The book argues that they are a failure if Xavi lasts for only a season and then the next manager comes, he sells Lewandowski, Koundé, and Rafinha at a discount and proceeds to buy more players. This normally happens because a manager does not have any incentive to be mindful of the club's finances. There's nothing in it for him. His job is dependent on him winning. If his job was dependent on Barcelona's finances doing well, he wouldn't be a coach, he'd be on the board. So there's a mismatch on incentives between the coach and the board, and that's why when a new coach comes in, he wants to spend whatever is necessary to make his own team, promising the club wins. And long-term money is gonna be wasted. Now, the second mistake clubs make is buying players after the World Cup or any other big international tournament. I want you to picture James in 2014, big World Cup, almost took Colombia to the semi-final, lost to Brazil, and then in the summer, Madrid dished out $100 million to buy him, and he was never the star they expected him to be. Normally, players get overly motivated for the World Cup because they're playing for their country, and it's only a maximum of 7 games. In this World Cup, I'm thinking of Gavardiol, I'm thinking of Amrabat. These are players that have surprised everyone, they're playing amazing, but teams should be wary of overpaying for them. Everyone has seen the same World Cup. All the clubs in the world are probably extremely excited about these players, which is bound to push their prices up. Now, maybe they live up to the hype, but it's only a small sample of games. Another example that comes to mind is Pavard. Pavard scored that amazing goal against Argentina in 2014, and all the teams were dying to buy the new right back that's going to be a future star because of the goal he scored against Argentina. That's because after the tournament's over, you remember that goal and you think, wow, what a skillful player he is. Now, 4 years later, Pavard doesn't even start in France, and he was signed by Bayern. Granted, he wasn't that expensive, but he still hasn't been able to really shine. So the second thing that clubs should have in mind is that success in a World Cup, Copa America, or Euro Cup does not mean that they're gonna be a successful signing for your club. Now, the next one is very interesting, and it's that clubs overpay for nationalities. This is a classic meme of Gavi or Bellingham, and according to this book, that's true. They put a quote from an agent that says that it's easier to sell a crap Brazilian than a Bolivian star. If you think of a Brazilian, you think of jogo bonito, skills, dancing, playfulness, amazing players. When you think of Bolivia, you don't really think of any particular player. They haven't really had any stars. This chapter made me think about Endrick, the Brazilian 16-year-old that Madrid just signed for around $80 million. And if you think about it, if Endrick was Venezuelan like myself, he probably would have never cost $80 million. For Barca's sake, I hope he doesn't succeed, but we'll find out in a couple of years. Now, if you want to play it smart, the book says that you should look for undervalued nationalities and buy the best players from those nationalities at a cheap price. I think the best example for this is when Florentino bought Modric in 2012 for only $30 million. Modric was probably one of the best, if not the best, Croatian player in the world. If it worked out, which it did, you get an amazing player for $30 million. And if he ends up being a bust, it was only $30 million, which in Real Madrid's budget is not that much. So very interesting point, probably my favorite one out of the 4. Buy players from random countries. Now, the last one also sadly applies to my team Barcelona, and that is seniority is an overrated reason to buy, keep, or renew a player. Barca is well known for keeping players until they can't physically perform anymore. And this is an issue because you buy some of these players for a very expensive tag, and then when they can't perform, they're 30 something, they're old, you end up letting them go for free. And just because they're old and they have all this experience, they're normally the highest earners players at the club. One thing that Florentino Perez does amazingly is selling his players at the right time. In this channel, we also talk about stocks, same thing with players. You buy low, you sell high. Florentino sold Di Maria to Manchester United, Ozil to Arsenal, Casemiro recently to Manchester United, Ronaldo to Juventus. And at the times, these sales seemed crazy, and what ended up happening is that they never performed as well again. So Florentino got a nice price tag for his star players, and he was able to replace them with younger players that earn less money. So be wary of overpaying for players in their early 30s. So these are just 4 of the many tips that this book has. I definitely recommend it if you're a soccer/football fan like I am. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what your team's biggest signing failure is, and subscribe. We have videos every Wednesday. So I'll see you again next week. Peace.